Hello and welcome to Bar Afrique, the podcast where we tell the unexplored stories of African decolonization. My name is Lynn and my co-host Sarah is joining us from London again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So I drank before this and it just hit me now. As soon as you said welcome.
As soon as I said it, the wine just hit you.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. So it's gonna be a good episode.
I'm excited. I think it's gonna be so good because who we have here joining me in studio is the coolest girl in Montreal. Okay, one of the coolest people in Montreal, Miss Elsie. Hi.
Hello. Is this my camera?
This is your camera.
Okay, hi.
Tell the people who you are.
So I'm from Ghana originally. I moved to Montreal in 2018 for my undergrad. So in Ghana, I live in Accra, but my dad is from the Upper East region, and our village is actually like right on the border of Ghana and Burkina Faso. And then my mom is from like a coastal city in the Volta region.
I have a very important question for you.
Okay.
How do you feel about the fact that every December the entire Black diaspora descends on Accra?
It was cute, like the first year. And now it's just like, why are tickets back home that expensive? I hate it. I'm sorry. Everybody needs to wrap it up. Can everyone go at a time where I'm not trying to go home to see my family? That would be lovely. Yeah.
I think a lot of our audience is the Black diaspora, so you can speak directly to them.
Yeah, guys,
you could tell them
please
not
go
to come.
in April, March, June, July, anytime but December, please. Because I only can go home for as long as I want in December.
In December, right? That's so true.
July, that's a good time.
Yeah, guys, go in the
We
summer.
love it.
Summer for the Northern Hemisphere, not summer for Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you never heard of winter in Ghana? Beautiful.
Short.
But I'm really excited because you have been picked for this episode for a special reason.
Okay.
And Lynn, tell us what we're talking about today and why Elsie is the perfect guest to have on our podcast.
Okay, so today, guys, I am taking us to Ghana.
Oh
We're going to Ghana. I'm very excited for this episode. We will be talking about the 1948 Accra riots.
Okay.
The lead up to the riots, what happened before it, what it sort of says about the way that Ghana ended up getting independence. But yeah, I'm excited. That's why you were chosen for this episode.
Oh
Because I
my
knew I was going to do
God.
an episode on Ghana. I was like, I know a Ghanaian girl. I'm going to put her on the show.
Put me on. Okay, tell me the story.
This story, I'm not going to take us all the way back to the beginning of British colonization, which was in 1821. But we are starting in World War II, where Britain basically contributed over 65,000 African soldiers from the Gold Coast to the Royal West African Frontier Force, which was the British Army's sort of military force made up of soldiers from their colonies. And they mainly fought in East Africa and Burma. In the aftermath of World War II, despite victory for the Allied forces, and those who don't know, the Allied forces were like the US, the UK, China, the Soviet Union, right? Britain went broke. They went bankrupt, right? And so they decided, and they came up with this idea that they were going to turn the Gold Coast into a model colony through developmental colonialism, which meant that they were going to invest more in infrastructure, in education. They were going to increase trade. However, after World War II, everyone was broke, particularly Britain. Like
That's what you get for fighting a war.
Yeah, Britain was broke. Like there was nothing that they had no money. And so everything that they tried to import, there wasn't much to import in the country. And so again, like when there's not enough of something, the prices naturally get higher. But the people in the Gold Coast were already not earning that much, right? So they couldn't really afford things at the time. But I also want to say that with all of that happening, there's also a majority of the population that's sort of getting angry with the increasing prosperity of foreign traders, particularly from Syria and Lebanon.
Got you.
And this sort of created this like hostile attitudes towards non-African traders. I have a question for you though. Is there like a big Syrian and Lebanese population in Ghana?
Lebanese, like massive Lebanese population. And even the thing you said about businesses, to this day, a lot of like major businesses, restaurants, like so many like staple Ghanaian businesses, you find out that they have like this really long history or they're Lebanese. But yeah, we have a really, really big population. To the point that like lots of them don't even really have like, their children don't really have ties to Lebanon. So they're essentially Ghanaian. Like they've been there that long.
Back to the story. Cocoa farmers felt particularly exploited, again, which isn't fair because they can't afford to live. Like the things that they're producing, they're not even earning as much money as they possibly could, while the things that they need to buy to live are too expensive. So at this point, everyone is pissed off. Everyone is angry. And cocoa farmers suffered extreme losses during and after the war because of a disease called cocoa swollen foot virus, CSSV. In 1946,
sorry, that name was kind of funny.
I know. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I don't want it.
You know what cocoa swollen foot virus?
Why would I?
Like swollen to humans.
Swollen shoot.
Or like,
oh my God, guys.
Girl. Because I was like, foot.
like
It's cocoa
so I
swollen
understand.
shoot virus. Guys, CSSV.
So you eat some chocolate and you get swollen feet.
No, you don't. So the disease was on the trees, was on the cocoa trees, not on the humans.
Okay.
It's my problem. I mistook shoot for foot, but it's shoot. Again, guys, it's cocoa swollen shoot virus, CSSV. As you can see, this gin is playing games.
Bayab. Bayab? How do you pronounce it? Bayab. Shout out to them.
But back to serious matters, guys. This is serious.
Sorry.
I was screaming. I was like, in my head, I was like, hey. So I eat the chocolate, and then I wake up the next day, and like my foot was like twice the size of how it was the day before, and that's cocoa swollen foot.
Okay.
No, I'm so sorry. I don't want to spread misinformation. I'm not about that business. It's called cocoa swollen shoot virus, CSSV. Okay. Right? And the cocoa trees in the Gold Coast were suffering from that. And in 1946, the British colonial authorities, they passed a law sort of compelling cocoa farmers to cut down their trees or to allow government mandated cutout crews to cut the trees, right? But this created a problem for the cocoa farmers because it came at a time where cocoa prices were already rising significantly and it wouldn't give them enough time to sort of make up for those losses.
Yeah, because cocoa also takes ages to grow. Okay.
It takes a long time to grow. And the farmers also believed that even with the infected trees, they had about like 2 seasons worth of cocoa left. But the British didn't care. They were like, either you're going to cut it or we're going to come and cut it for you, especially after the war. But other like facets of the general population were also suffering, right? And they were unsatisfied. Public works employees, teachers, those who worked on government railways, those who worked in privately exploited mines, they were all demanding for increased wages that would match the rising cost of living. But when they went to the government, not the government, British colonial authorities asking them to sort of establish price controls and to ration the essential goods, the British colonial authorities completely ignored them.
Sorry.
They really did not care that these people were suffering. But an Accra sub-chief named, and you could correct me on the way I pronounce these names, please, named Ni Kwabena Boni III, who was a semi-educated wealthy trader. He was determined to find a way to lower the prices of essential goods. And he organized a large campaign to sort of boycott European goods, particularly those from the United Africa Company, which had a huge monopoly in the trading industry at the time in British colonies, right?
yeah.
Also, you know about it. Are they still? I don't think they're still active today, actually.
If they do, they've definitely like changed the name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what Kwame III did is he toured the country to sort of explain what the purpose of his initiative was and to gain support from traditional chiefs and the general population. And because discontent was like super widespread, his ideas and his initiative were welcomed and accepted everywhere, right? And the boycott officially launched January 25th, 1948. And it quickly spread all over the country. And it sort of, it mainly concerned imported goods such as cotton prints, tinned meat, flour, biscuits, and spirits. It was backed up by the general population, so everyone boycotted, and it was morally supported by traditional chiefs and nationalist movements. One of them being the United Gold Coast Convention, the UGCC, right?
Shout out to them.
And so the UGCC was the first nationalist political party in the Gold Coast, founded in 1947 by Joseph Boakie Dankwa. Boakie. By Joseph Boakie Dankwa, George Alfred Grant, and other like African elites and professionals, all of them male. And one of their main priorities was to achieve self-governance in quote unquote the shortest possible time.
Yeah. It's giving social studies. Oh my God.
Wait, did you just say all of them male?
Yeah, they were all male. It's the truth. I just needed to say that.
It has nothing to do with the episode, but feminism.
But yeah, they were all male. It's true. But one of their most prominent leaders was a man we all know.
Shout out to him.
Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah.
He was one of their main leaders. He was also the first prime minister of the Gold Coast, and he was the first president of what would eventually be called Ghana. But in the UGCC, he was the general secretary, and it was his job to sort of gain the support of the people. And that mission would be made easier because of the 1948 boycotts. The boycotts were so successful that on February 11th, 1948, the British colonial government was brought in to arrange a series of negotiations between Kwame Boni and the Council of Chiefs on one side and the Accra Chamber of Commerce on the other side. On February 20th, 1948, the two sides agreed on a reduction of prices on certain amount of imported goods and the resumption of retail buying on February 28th, 1948. We've got two important dates here, February 20th and February 28th. As the agreement is being finalized on February 20th, right? Nkrumah and Dankwa are meeting and addressing World War II veterans who have been agitating and asking for their end of service benefits from the British colonial government. Nkrumah and Dankwa gave them their support and encouraged the veterans in their protest over their post-war neglect. African soldiers had been forcibly conscripted into Britain's army to sort of fight for them fight on their behalf during World War II. Soldiers from the Gold Coast were promised that when they got home, they would be given certain benefits, such as accommodation and employment. So when the war ended, these veterans were optimistic that when they got home that they would gain all these things, right? Unfortunately, they got nothing. Everything that they were promised from the British colonial government, they did not receive. So then on the day that the boycott was supposed to end on February...
Wait, Lynn, I feel like the history of World War II and how African soldiers were treated within World War II is one of the most fascinating under-discussed pieces of
I think
like
so too.
African decolonial history.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy because if you think about like, you know, like I read a story once about soldiers who fought in Burma, which is now Myanmar.
Yeah.
Is it Myanmar?
I think it's Myanmar, yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously, you know, they go, they fight, they stay there for like 3-4 years, literally fighting in the jungle. And then when the war is over, they're told that like the evacuation procedures is to get European and British soldiers out first. And it took up to like 4 years to even bring African soldiers back because they were so low on like the priority list. So imagine like you fight this war because you're told that like I'm gonna like bring money back to my family. Like you're earning wages while you're fighting. You actually survive in the jungle. You stay there for maybe like an extra like 3 years, and then you come home and they're like, "Thank you for your service. Like here's like £100."
Yeah. £100 and nothing. They and like I agree. It's like one of the most fascinating things to like see that history of like African soldiers fighting in World War II because they got nothing. They got absolutely nothing.
Just trauma.
Just trauma. Just trauma.
Trauma. Thank you for your service. Here's the trauma. And then on top of that, you have to watch the people that I'm sure like very brave and whatever, but like the soldiers you fought next to who were European get gifted
all sorts of
your
things.
land.
Get gifted your land and thrown parades.
They said here's a parade, and for the British soldiers, like you can have some land in like Kenya.
That's literally what
Mind
it is.
you, you've come back and you're homeless. No accommodation.
Literally.
No employment.
Nothing. Just trauma and vibes.
No benefits and like no acknowledgement. Like it's not even like you get like the narrative of like World War II is so European.
Yes.
That like the European soldiers get like a lot of acknowledgement for what they did. And then you come back and like there's no monument.
Crickets. Nothing. Anyways, there's just so
much.
There's just so much.
There's so much.
Yeah. And so on February 28th, 1948, as the boycott is supposed to like end and like retail buying is supposed to start again, these World War II veterans, through their union, organized a march and a meeting through the streets of Accra, both of which are authorized by the British Colonial Authority under the condition that they stayed more than a mile away from the governor's home in Christiansburg Castle, right? And so the march begins, and soon it's also joined by a lot of civilian sympathizers, you know, solidarity.
Yeah.
But with more and more people joining the march, people naturally get agitated. It's the energy, you know, people are energized.
And they're angry.
They're angry, they're energized, and the rowdiness sort of grows. At this point, the number is in the thousands. And they're getting agitated. And as the group continues to expand, things become bigger than what the British Colonial Authority actually expected. And it was then revealed that the veterans had planned all along to go to Christiansburg Castle, right? And to present him with a petition and a list of grievances. And as they're making their way towards the governor's home, the British superintendent of the head of police, Superintendent Colin Imray, he stops them and he tells them that he will allow a couple representatives to go to the governor's home and to present the petition, but that not all of them can go. The people say, no, we will all go. And not even in we're all going or none of us are going. They say we're all going.
Yeah, you have no choice.
You have no choice. The answer, you can't say no because we will walk there. We will all get there. And so as they're trying to make their way forward, Superintendent Imray orders his police officers, again, all of them are Gold Coasters, these police officers. He orders them to shoot at the protesters. The police are like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to shoot our people. We're not doing that. And so they decide that they're going to shoot in the air.
Okay.
So they start shooting in the air because they're like, we're not going to shoot our people. Absolutely not. And in all that frustration, Colonel Imre grabs a gun from one of the officers and he starts shooting into the crowd. Just boom, 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 boom. He starts shooting. And he kills 3 veterans. Sergeant Ajite, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte. Odate.
Yeah, chill.
Tell us.
Because my thing is, so this part of the story I know, and every single time I'm just like, couldn't someone just grab him and throw him somewhere? Like, respectfully, there's one of him and there's all of you. Pisses me off. And it's the fact that like they had this much power. But one thing I would say though is the police like being like, we're not shooting at our people. Because in recent times, I think that's one of the biggest things with like recent protests in Ghana, where people are just like, they can't believe that the police are literally sabotaging the work that they're doing, or like, because they're fighting against like pollution of our water bodies, all of that stuff. And then police are literally the ones like trying to kill people, beat people. And it's like, this is happening for all of us Ghanaians. Like, why are you in my up right now? Mm-hmm. And I think there's something to be learned about how to support national movements. Because there's this sentiment of like it's orders from above and like it's out of our control, but ultimately that the execution is in your hands. So yes, policing in itself is like a colonial tool, but at the same time, there's a lot. Once we understand that certain things are essentially for the benefit of the Ghanaian population, it's important to continue to like support that in any way we can. And your hands aren't ever like fully tied, you know.
Bayab is a small batch gin distilled in South Africa. The African rose, which we're drinking today, blends the signature citrus of African baobab fruit with rose petals and rose water for a slightly sweeter finish.
So I found this thing called a gimlet, right? Mm-hmm. And so a gimlet is made of gin, simple syrup that I made at home last night.
Oh, period.
And lime juice. But I was very experimental in the proportions of how much I poured things. Mm-hmm. So I won't lie to you, I did like probably quadruple the gin in there.
Okay. Listen.
But it's good.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's so weird when you do these virtually because, like, as soon as we stop recording, I'm just at home tipsy.
Yeah, so you do a dance party alone in your house.
I should.
And the thing is, when she records, it's like morning time for me. So I can't drink. It's like 7 a.m.
Fair.
So I'm just sipping tea.
I mean, you can. You choose not
Socially
to.
acceptable? No, but who gonna check you?
I'm in my house, you know.
Cool.
Alrighty. So, welcome back to Bar Afrique, our podcast about African history. We're talking about the 1948 Accra riots. Stop laughing at me. I will now summarize.
Let's hear
I'll
summary.
Summarize what we've been talking about. Okay, so basically, World War II ends, and the soldiers, they've been disrespected. The Ghanaian soldiers.
Yes.
But also, like, lots of soldiers across the African continent. They fought for the Europeans, and they're not happy about how they've been treated afterwards. So they have discontent. And there's also been a boycott of European goods.
Yes.
Because things have become very expensive, right? So basically, the veterans in Ghana, they want to deliver a petition to the British colonial government, and so they have a protest. But other people join because people are just mad. And things get a little bit more rowdy than the British colonial government thought that they were going to get. So they tell the British colonial government this is. They tell the police to fire at the people, and the police say no. So then this one guy, Superintendent something, what's his name, Lynn?
Colin Imre.
Imre, that was his name.
Superintendent Imre.
Nice.
He grabs a gun, he just like fires, and he kills 3 people.
Yes.
That is where we left off. Thank you.
I'm crying.
I'm very proud of that summary.
No, that was a
really
good one. That was a good
actually
one.
really
I
good.
feel like I really got the gist of this episode down.
Exactly.
That was actually a really good summary. You're right. Where we left off is that Superintendent Colonel Imre just shot at 3 people. Not just 3 people, 3 World War II veterans, right? And word of the killings spread everywhere and really, really fast. And right after these veterans were shot, the protesters rushed towards the police officers and beat them up.
Listen, beat your ups.
They beat them up. Like, they really beat these guys up. And the police were so outnumbered that they had no choice but to flee. Like, they couldn't fight back. There were too many protesters. Like I said, they'd been in the thousands. So they had no choice but to sort of flee. And then after that, the protesters went to the city center. And in Accra's business district, where people had already been getting angry because the reduction in prices had not been what they thought it would be after the lifting of the boycotts, right? Angry veterans began breaking windows and breaking everything that they could, while civilians began looting European and Syrian shops. The central prison in Ghana was stormed by the demonstrators, and some of those inmates ended up joining the riots. And the rioting was so, like, it was getting so out of hand that the British colonial authorities didn't know what they were going to do. Like, they didn't know how they were going to control it. The people, they burnt everything. Everything was being burnt down. The house of Syrians were broken into. The cars of wealthy British and African people were turned over and burnt. And like I said, European shops were being destroyed everywhere. And in the coming days, like the next couple of days, the rioting sort of spread all over the Gold Coast in places like, you can correct my pronunciation, Nsawam, Koforidua, Koforidura.
Sure.
I'm really trying. Like, I learned, like, yesterday I was sitting there like, let me learn how to pronounce these words.
In Sawam, you got right. Koforidua.
Koforidua. Akuse. And Kumasi.
Yeah.
You got it.
Sounds right to me.
Of course it does.
So yeah, like, these riots basically spread all over the territory. And the veterans also targeted all. Tell us about United Africa Company.
Oh my God, yes, guys.
Oh my gosh, yes, tell us.
United Africa Company.
Update.
I'm looking into the camera right now.
Yes.
Was a subsidiary of Unilever. When they said it at the beginning, I was like, is a subsidiary of Unilever. United Africa Company was, this is Wikipedia, by the way, but like, whatever. You know, I feel like at this point, it's public knowledge. I can find a better source and we can add it in like description or whatever. 1929, merger of Niger Company and Lever Brothers, whatever. Reduced to bankruptcy, and then they came under the control of Unilever in the 1930s.
Because Unilever is a big conglomerate. It's a big company. And like, during this time, like during the riots, the United Africa Company, like, these veterans were like burning their stores down in Kumasi and in Accra. Like, they were burning all of their stores down. And the local police officers were like, we're not going to suppress our people. Like, we're not going to shoot our people. We're not going to do anything to them. And because of that, the British colonial authorities were having a lot of trouble calming down the situation, which meant that they had to go look for reinforcements. The first place they went to is Nigeria. Nigerian troops arrived in Accra by March 8th, right?
Oh no.
However, the Nigerian troops did not know what their assignment was before they arrived.
Got you.
So when they did arrive in Accra and learned what they were supposed to do, they said, no. They said, we are not going to shoot our Gold Coast comrades. We're not doing that. And as soon as they said no, the British people had to go look somewhere else.
Okay.
So the next place they went to was Sierra Leone. The Sierra Leone soldiers, after finding out what they were asked to do, said no. In solidarity, they said, we're also not going to do anything to our comrades. And they refused to follow military orders, which had consequences. They were ended up being disarmed and imprisoned in their barracks. But they stood their ground. They said, we're not going to do anything to our comrades. We're not going to do anything to these people. And as a last resort, the British had no choice but to go to South Africa, surprise, surprise, and get British troops from there.
It's always the South Africans.
My
It's
God.
always the South Africans. The South Africans are at the scene of every crime also.
And let me bet that they did not say we can't do this.
They didn't say no. They didn't say no. They didn't say no.
Oh, boo.
They did not say
Yeah,
no.
boo. We can boo.
The British troops from South Africa arrived in Ghana. And after, quote unquote, peace was restored like 5 days later, after a curfew was ended up being imposed in Accra with sort of regulations to close certain streets and to control traffic, the number of people killed rose to 29, from 3 to 29. 237 people were injured, and the property damage totaled to £2 million.
Crazy.
That's an insane amount of money for a country, Britain is not a country, that basically said they were broke. They had no money. And then they had $2 million in damages in a colony that they said they were going to
Make into a model. Serves them right. Sorry.
They said they were going to make this place into a model colony. Now they've got £2 million in damages. But before the riots even broke out, the UGCC, who were the first nationalist political party in the Gold Coast, had given their full support to Kwame Boni III in his boycott, right? And like I said, they'd given like the World War II veterans their support in their post-World War II neglect. But I think it's important to emphasize that they did not plan or participate in the riots at all. They did not participate or plan at all. But on the day that the riots broke out, they sent a telegram to the colonial secretary telling him that the British colonial authority in the Gold Coast had broken down and that an interim government should be formed under their leadership.
Yeah.
Just marinate with that a little bit. Just marinate with that information a little bit. And so the colonial authorities, under their new governor, a man named Sir Gerald Hallen Creasy, who people called Crazy Creasy. I don't know, that's a cool...
No, we gave, historically, we gave the best nicknames. I don't know. I think Ghanaians give the best nicknames to colonial governments.
Crazy Creasy is a very interesting nickname, right? And so they declared Crazy Creasy, sorry, I don't know if I should call him Crazy Creasy.
Listen, that was his name on the streets.
His name on the streets was Crazy Creasy, so I'm just gonna call him the name on the streets, Crazy Creasy, right? He declared a state of emergency on March 1st as a response to the riots and the telegram from the UGCC, right? And then on March 12th, a removal order was issued for the arrest of all 6 members of the UGCC leadership. The colonial authorities were under the impression that the UGCC had instigated the riots because of their public support, and they also accused them of planning further disorders and disruptions. But again, none of that was true. The UGCC did not plan or participate in the riots. They did none of that. But the truth did not matter to these colonial authorities because the UGCC leaders were arrested, detained, and deported to isolated areas in the northern territories of the Gold Coast. But arresting these leaders did absolutely nothing for the British colonial authorities, right? Because these guys were seen as heroes. They nicknamed them the Big Six.
Shout out to them though.
The Big Six, right?
Except the traitors. Oops. Sorry.
And membership of the political
What
party.
did you say?
No, I said shout out to them except the traitors.
And we will
Who are
get to
the
that.
traces?
We'll
get to
we'll
that.
get
We'll
to
get to
that. And so membership of the political party rose 25 times between March and May 1948. But there was a bit of controversy with the Big Six because they didn't plan or participate in the riots, right? And the riots were sort of a continuation of the boycotts and of people's discontent. A lot of people felt, and even today, while I was doing this research, a lot of people feel that it's inaccurate and unfair to give the UGCC so much credit
For the
for sort of like the bubbling and foundation of this nationalist movement, which I think is fair. Like some people say they hijacked the moment. And I can see why that sort of reasoning happens because yes, they didn't really orchestrate this stuff. They sort of took the opportunity from this and said, you know what, we can use this to sort of further our nationalist like ideals, which is, I think, is very fair.
So I think in
Probably
this
should've.
storytelling, it is a bit like opportunistic the way they like leverage that, but that also just became the foundations of like independence movements, and then their activities then led to like independence in like the next almost a decade. So it's also very much like, yeah, they stole someone's credit, which is like terrible. But then I have very mixed feelings about it because like ultimately we ended up somewhere, even though the UGCC didn't like fully carry us through all of it, it was very much foundational work. So it's like they saw an opportunity and took it, which is like,
yeah.
you know what's fair, but then they do like in mainstream conversations, in like mainstream historical narrative, they are presented at the forefront of this movement and the riots, which again is, you know, revisionist in some ways. And like we don't like revisionism in history. So yeah.
There's a lot of nuance to it, I feel like, you know? And so after like peace was restored again, the secretary of the British colonial government, so the colonial secretary, decided that he was going to appoint a independent commission to go to the Gold Coast and sort of investigate what led to the riots, right? And so this commission arrived in the Gold Coast in April 1948, and they were led by a man named Aiken Watson. So the commission was called the Watson Commission. And for an entire month, they traveled around the country, they held a lot of sessions, and they spoke to so many people trying to understand what were the underlying causes of the riots and what were the main problems plaguing the country, right? And the 6 leaders of the UGCC ended up being released so that they could tell their side of the story. In June 1948, the commission released a report called the Report of the Commission of Inquiry into the Disturbances in the Gold Coast. I also just want to say I found the report. It's quite long. It's really, really long report. I just want to say also, I have a thing for finding reports from like the 1900s and 1800s. So I have that report in my iPad, guys.
Send it to me.
I'll send it to you.
Lid's favorite thing is to go, and I have it in my iPad.
It is. I have these reports, guys.
Dramatic retelling. She'll be like, they wrote a report, and I have it in my iPad.
Okay, let's get Lynn's iPad.
Guys, like I have these things. But you know what? This is sort of like going away from this. But it's just so interesting to find these like primary resources. Like this is a report from 1948. Like that's insanity for me to have on my iPad. And like it's scanned and it's like the pages are weird. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a nerd. I really enjoy that stuff.
But it's okay.
I don't think you're a nerd.
But also, like, guys, I also don't think there's anything wrong with being a nerd. Like, nerd out on things you like. Who gonna check you?
I love having these reports. I'm like, wow, like I have access to these things from all these
really,
years
really
ago. And it's like, but when you read them, it's actually so shocking, especially with this report from this commission, because I was so shocked to read how favorable it was to the people of the Gold Coast than it was to the British colonial authorities.
Because that was going to be my next question. That like, what was their framing of the riot?
In the report, they basically said that Britain was failing the Gold Coast.
Okay.
And some of the things that they said was that like it systematically endorsed all the complaints that the Gold Coasters were having, right? And it said that the first constitution that was written for the Gold Coast was created to fail and to displease the people. Exactly, right? And they acknowledged that the government was handling the case of the veterans and the cocoa farmers in a terrible way. It also acknowledged the fact that independence was something that was really widespread amongst the population. And it was the first time that a British appointed body had officially legitimized the ultimate goal of a nationalist movement, right? It also described the colonial authorities as being out of touch, as being inefficient, and as suffering from a certain lack of empathy for the African people. It shamed them. The report basically shamed the British colonial authorities, right? And their most important and significant recommendation was that a new constitution needed to be written with an all-African committee. This report basically said that the future political structure and system of the Gold Coast could not be determined by a good British government in London, but that it had to be determined by the people who lived on this land and who lived on the land before British people arrived there, right? And like I said, the British arrived in 1821. So what the Watson Commission basically did was they dissolved the first constitution and created a space for it to be filled by an all-African committee. And so in response to that report, Governor Creasy, Crazy Creasy, decided that he was going to appoint an all-African committee on constitutional reform to sort of advise on a new constitution. And this committee was led by a 55-year-old judge called Justice J. Henley Kusi. The committee consisted of about 38 members, right? From all over the country. It included chiefs, professionals, middle-class Africans, and nationalists, and a lot of people, like a lot of nationalists, right? 6 members of the UGCC were in that committee. 5 of them from the Big Six. The 6th member of the Big Six, however, Kwame Nkrumah, had actually been booted out of the party because he was seen as a radical figure.
Yep.
He was seen as a very radical figure. Let me say that when they were first arrested in March 1948, 5 of them denied any involvement in the riots, and they decided to point their fingers at Nkrumah. Which again was stupid because we know that none of you had anything to do with the riots, but they decided to point their fingers at Nkrumah because they were already having a lot of issues with him because his ideas were way too radical for them. And the committee ended up coming up with a number of proposals for deep reform in like local and central government. And in 1951, the Kusi Constitution was written according to the recommendations of the Kusi Committee. However, the work of the Watson and the Kusi Commissions created a new political world that fundamentally benefited the very forces that the British colonial government was trying to alienate. And those forces were Kwame Nkrumah and his newly formed Convention People's Party, the CPP. Nkrumah, in 1957, would eventually become the first leader of a post-independence Gold Coast, which would eventually be renamed Ghana. Ghana. And the boycotts and riots of 1948 laid that foundation. And this is where we end our story.
I always commend Lynn because I think you take these huge icons of independence and provide people with a story about them or a lens that they may not know about, which I think is always awesome that you're willing to kind of like tackle like these huge icons and figures. So I appreciate that. We're gonna wrap up now. Thank you for listening. I'll let Lynn close us out. But yeah, as always, what a wonderful time in the Bar Freak studio.
Always a wonderful time in the Bar Freak studio.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Elsie, for joining us today.
Of course,
We were
thanks for
so
having
happy to
me.
have you. And thank you guys for always listening and supporting us. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.